Hello there, aspiring Tennos. This is me, some Texagon from several months in the future. The clip that I'm about to show you was filmed right before I moved, so way in the past, and then somehow forgotten about in the chaos. Anyways, these are level 185 Eximus frontline heavy gunners, or in other words, some of the toughest enemies in this entire game. Anyways, enjoy the rest of this video. Never mind, I had forgotten in how much of a frenzied state I was at the time of recording this video, and arguably I probably should not have been recording one at that time, hence why it was forgotten about, I guess. Alright, but anyways, let's talk about PROTEA. So what's the trick? What's the secret behind this build? What is the hidden synergy? There is none. This is actually just how PROTEA works. We're using an ability that will help her a little bit to do what it is that she does best, but it pretty much all comes from PROTEA anyways. So, her abilities. The nuke that we'll be using for this build is her Blaze Artillery. The way the Blaze Artillery works is that it will shoot enemies in a angle of degree in front of you. You can see here it says firing arc. That's the area in which it can see the enemies. Each time it strikes an enemy, it will deal 100% more base damage to the next enemy it hits. Now, what's important to note here is that, and you'd be forgiven for not knowing this, but Blaze Artillery is actually an AoE weapon, which means that it can hit multiple enemies at once. And if it hits 20 enemies at once, then it will add 2000% of its base damage to its next attack. So we want to allow this to hit as many enemies at once as possible. So the way that we'll be doing this is that we will borrow Chorus in Snare and then throw it on PROTEA. So that's basically what we'll be doing. We'll be throwing in Snare on the enemies, grouping them up, and then nuking them all at once with the Blaze Artillery. Again, heat damage is super busted in this game, and being able to apply many stacks of these all at once is very powerful. It is the only dot damage over time that does not deplete after a couple of seconds. Now let's talk utility, because we will actually be using the entire kit for once. We'll be using dispensary for all of the energy that we could ever want, and as you can see here, we are into negative energy efficiency, and as you guys know, that is not really my playstyle normally. However, because of the energy that dispensary will be supplying us with, that is not a big deal. Then we're using Grenade Fan. First up, we're using her first ability. We're using the first version of her first ability. It is a decent enough CC that will stagger the enemies. Let me just go ahead and show you. So enemies that walk into this actually kind of very large field will be staggered. Alternatively, we can hold it down to cast the Grenade Fans. As you can see, when I pick it up, I gain shield over time. The shield over time effect is not that powerful. However, what is important is that it has two secondary effects. First is that when you pick it up, you gain a burst of shield that is large enough that you instantly regain shields back up to full, which means that you'll get back your shield gating. Secondarily, if your shields are fully depleted while a satellite is connected to you, then the satellite will be destroyed, and your shield gate will be extended by, that will be 1.7 seconds, so you'll get a total of 3 seconds of shield gating, which is enough time to throw this at your feet. So as long as you are aware enough and have energy, which you will because of dispensary, then you're never going to die. Which is why I did not mind infusing Ensnare over her ultimate, because I think ultimate is usually more trouble than it actually is worth. Okay, so let's take a look at the build itself. Now, in terms of all this additional stuff here, this is just additional stuff. You don't need any of this. Now, as a quality of life, and this really is just a quality of life, because PROTEA is very capable of killing acolytes just with this setup. But if you want to have a much easier time, I recommend bringing a heavy attack glaive, preferably the glaive prime, and then just using this. Throw it and then manually detonate it with your special attack button, whatever that may be. For me, that is my middle mouse button. Okay, anyway, so PROTEA, and this is where all the power comes from. As I just said, this is all you will ever really need. Equilibrium is absolutely mandatory on this build and cannot be replaced, because remember, her dispensary throws out, I don't have enough energy. Her dispensary throws out both first health orbs and then ammo, and then it throws out energy. Now, as you can see here, we pick up 200 health, and 200 health is converted to energy with 110% efficiency. So basically every single last time this pulses and gives us 200 health, that is like 220 energy. So as I just said, you will have all the energy that you could ever want, allowing you to spam your abilities like crazy. Anyways, the rest of this is pretty basic. I've put on energy radar because I haven't quite put a former on her yet, a aura former, and this is fine, but corrosive projection of course works really well with her. You don't need brief respite, but it is, I mean, it's usable on her, it's fine. Growing power is actually really good, and I would highly recommend that you use this if you have already formatted this slot. Now, there's a lot of good arcanes that you can use on PROTEA. The one that I really like to use is actually Arcane Eruption. She doesn't really need a lot of support, which makes her very budget friendly. Of course, all of the arcanes that's good on all the Warframes, like Arcane Guardian, Awakening, all of these, which are always good, are also going to be good on PROTEA. You might want to consider running Nullifier, just so that in Corvus missions you don't have all of your shield, not your shields, your energy ripped away from you, because then you won't be able to cast your first ability and then you might actually die. And that's pretty much all there is to it. I hope that you guys will get out there and have some fun with this build, especially if you're just getting into the steel pad. This is absolutely a viable option. Also, I do want to show you, right, if you just take a heavy gunner. Yeah, hold on. Clear everything. I'm just gonna get one. What's kind of important to note here is that even if you only have one enemy available to you, which most of the time you won't, and even if you only have PROTEA and no other weapon to use, just spamming this is actually a viable enough way to kill even like single target enemies. Again, that is a level 185 heavy gunner. That's not a pushover kind of enemy, and the more enemies there are, the more powerful you will become. So yeah, that is pretty much all there is to that. As I already said a couple of times, I will see you in the next one.